WN95HL with your host Alja Magnus, and I have Moses Bogart here for the dark side of 95. Welcome to the show, Moses.
Thank you, Ultra Magnus.
So this week's episodes with Moses Bogart, the owner, the GM, the silk voice of WNHL 95 on Twitch with the Grand River Herons. And with Moses, so far in this league that you've noticed with things going on, I know that you're close with the Waterloo crew. I know a lot of the stories we're going to have are going to be kind of related with them. But given what you've seen so far in the league, how have you experienced it the way that you have thought, or maybe gone over and above of what you had originally thought the league would be?
It was so difficult for us as a tribe to start even playing on RetroGaming together that I'm just amazed that it could be pulled off, and especially with the size of the league. I think that the gameplay, lots of us have talked about how much it's evolving, but with the league in general, just how we can collect stats and our Google spreadsheet is absolutely phenomenal. And all the work that has to go into that, just that kind of stuff is the above and the beyond. It's neat also that we've kept things together for going up to season 5. Like, I've been in a lot of hockey pools that fall apart pretty quickly and other things like that, so that we're still going into season 5, that's pretty cool.
Well, the thing is with the league, I've noticed a lot of things have transpired is that we've had some major headaches that have been basically taken care of over the last couple of seasons, which has been a bit of a relief for me on the off season. But given from what you've experienced so far, how big do you think NHL, our league, could become?
I mean, I don't think it's ever going to be what the 90s like. No, they're not going to make a documentary on ESPN about us, I don't think. But
no, because they'll put us on TSN because we're Canadian.
There you go. But I think we're just going to keep getting better and better at the game. Like, I'm sure the people who sat there programming this back in whatever year they made it in '94, they weren't thinking of just how good we would get. We always said that our Waterloo tribe, our thing was always, we're the world championship. We didn't know that anyone else was playing this game. We thought we were the only ones. There's a cocky side to us saying it's the world championship, and there's this being silly and having fun and saying that. But what you've created now is a literal world championship, because you've brought people together from all across North America. I mean, I guess like baseball saying the World Series and only one team's from Canada even. But in general, this is the actual world championship of this game. That's how big it gets. The person who wins this is literally the best NHL 95 player in the world. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, it's been Sean for the last 2 seasons, and it's going to be another Waterloo guy, whether it'll be Sean or Colin this season as well.
Yeah, and I mean, that's really cool for me personally, because those guys are my best friends, and you always want to see your friends be successful, and also they're from our tribe, and it does, all those shirts we were wearing all those times saying, world championship, maybe they were a bit more accurate than we gave ourselves credit for at the time.
Well, maybe it was a prelude to what it's actually transpiring these days.
Yeah, definitely.
So, given what's going on in the league, I know I always ask the questions to everybody, who's their biggest rival? And I know for you, you would normally say your Waterloo guys, but if you had to exclude all Waterloo members, who would be your biggest rival?
Oh man, I definitely have really good games against Sagathon. I got a really tight record against him. I'm always find that the top players I seem to be playing well, and then players near the bottom I seem to play poorly. So I got really good rivalries with LHX. I like that. I like playing him. I like playing Lloyd Christmas, but I think Sagathon is the most fun to play, because I feel like a win against him, like beating the Godfather, is really special in and of itself. I don't know if I have like anyone who's like a fierce rival. We get upset at each other, right? But like I like that. Oh, I also like to do well against Nate, because when we've got Sean and Colin dominating the Waterloo tribe, there's the 3 guys beneath Nate, myself, and Stefan, who's not in our league, and the 3 of us kind of always vie to be 3rd and 4th behind those guys. So if ever I can beat Nate, I feel good about that too.
Well, the funny thing is, mine's McLean, and everyone keeps trying to think that they're going to make up another rivalry for me. I'm like, no. McLean and I, it runs deep. I don't like that Yenza. But the thing is that me and him have great conversations offline, but when it comes to slapping sticks in digital hockey, like, I'd rather slap the stick upside his head. But that's just me. That's just me. But the big thing is that I've noticed some rivalries brewing up, like Ticklepuss and Segathon is definitely one that I would say is a definite rivalry. Um, LHX and yourself, I would definitely say is a rivalry. I think you guys have played each other pretty tightly in all your series. Um, I would at times in my head, I wish King Raph would come back and just see if that rivalry would get resparked between you and him.
That was my biggest accomplishment in NHL '95 was beating King Raph in round one of that playoffs and just like staying on the manual goalie and I really focused on that series. Every time I entered the zone, I did it a different way. I don't know what happened there, but I managed to beat him. And then LHX was the second round, and I had a 3-1 lead, and he came back. And the last two games, I didn't even score. I started a 3-2 lead in the series. Pardon me. He went up 2-0. I won 3 in a row to be up 3-2. And then the last two games, I didn't even score a goal. He shut me out 4-3 and 3-0 because he's just that damn good. So, I mean, those are like a rivalry, I guess. I don't know. I haven't made the playoffs enough to have too many fierce rivals, but I guess that's where we're at.
Well, put it this way: we got plenty of seasons to make up that decision to see who your rival is, and I think a lot of the people out there listening will have their own opinion of who your rival is. And at the end of the day, whenever you get on, like whenever I've played a game against somebody, I feel my blood boil. And to Yucatuck, so can't stand you. Like even the play-in series was like very very tight, and like I see him as like an up and comer. I'm not sure who you would think is an up and comer for season 5 or for future seasons to come.
Yeah, no, talk to Yuck for sure. I think that, and I don't know him very well, but I know that he is like internationally ranked at like the current versions of this game. So when you can take that, the skills you have in that, and transfer them to our game, so he's been getting better and better the whole time. And I actually play him terribly because I've played him 4 times now in 2 seasons, and I'm 2-2 against, and I've won one and lost one every year, and I even got shut out by him once, I think 3-0. I think it was his first win last season. So yeah, he's an up and comer, but it just also shows that when guys are near the bottom, I know he's going to get to the top. When they're near the bottom, for some reason, I can't play those games. I have a really terrible record against players who are near the bottom.
Yeah, and I remember hearing this on the your announcement the other night, and saying that like the guys in the bottom are getting better, but the guys at the top are also getting better. So I almost put it as like if it's the Big Bang Theory, is where the universe continuously expands, and whatever we're seeing has been like a million or billions of years in the past. And it seems like that's what our league is happening. Is like, yeah, you can grow and develop, but the thing is that the guys at the top are just they're a remnants of what they were a few seasons ago because they've moved along and have improved since then.
Yeah, it's hard to make up the gap when the top players are improving as much as the bottom players. The gap stays the same, and that's going to be the big challenge. It's going to be, I think every season we'll see someone like the Gophers who maybe wouldn't expect to make the second round get there, but getting into those conference finals, I think we're gonna see a lot of the same teams, and the finals is gonna be a lot of the same teams because those players are just so good. But I definitely can't stand he is going to be someone who can get into that group. That's one name I would say could get up there.
Okay. So I'm going to change it up a little bit because I normally would say, tell us your darkest story of 95. I want to know your funniest story that you've experienced with the guys from Waterloo with 95. And do not worry about rated R because this is definitely not going to be for kids.
Well, there's very little sex involved in our tournament, so I'm not too worried about that.
Well, it doesn't matter whether it's actual physical. It can be mental, and I think a lot of fucking goes along in those tournaments. So,
the first tournament we ever did was just 4 of us. It was Sean, Colin, myself, and Stefan, and we decided it would be over 2 days. Everyone would play each other in a 7-game series on day 1 for rankings, and then we'd have a semifinal and a final the next day. And we all drank a bottle of Old English. That was one of our rules. You had to drink a 40 of Old English because our crew, back in university days where we all met, that was our thing. We would drink a 40 of Waterloo. There's this great bar in town. There's a punk rock bar. It's still there. It's called Phil's Grandsons. Dirty, it's awful. Sutton and I had a conversation about this on my channel, and for $20 you could buy an OE, and then you could get to the bar before 9 o'clock. You get in free. The beers were $1.50 each, so you could drink all night, have your OE first, get in for free, a couple beers at $1.50, have enough for a slice of pizza on the walk home. It was fabulous. So we all drank a bottle of OE the first time, and we were just so hungover the next day. There was no drinking during the finals because we were so hungover. There was a little bit of drinking, I guess, not a lot. But then Colin was drinking out of the trophy, and the next year I was talking to the guy who puts the plaques on the trophy. He's like, "You drank out of that? Oh my God, don't do that. It's poison. Like, do not do that." So we haven't drank out of the trophy again since then. I even saw the Memorial Cup. One of those guys, was it Jesse Pollock or whatever, who does things for, I don't know, TSN or Sportsnet on Twitter, but he was showing the Memorial Cup and like the inside, like what the bowl looks like, and it's absolutely disgusting to think someone would drink out of that. Just gross, the things you're going to catch. Anyway, 95 though, some good stories. My buddy Miles, he's a brewer, and he's starting his own brewery up in Ottawa, but he's worked for a lot of independent breweries the last little while, so he always had beer to bring for us. And one time he brought 150 tall cans for us for the tournament. This was a year we were hosting at my place where I am right now. And just when you have 150 beers, like, people don't really pay attention too much to, like, where they put their beer, right? They'd all just get another one. I don't need to worry about it because there's so many. So the next day we only had like 20 beers left over. But during one of the games, Stefan and Nate were playing in I don't know if it was the semifinals or whatever it was, and Stefan scored in overtime to win. He jumped up to celebrate and took out the light in my dining room, just like smashed the whole fixture and the light that hangs over your dining room table, and broken glass everywhere. So we had to throw out all the beers. We didn't know which beers had broken glass in them. So that was kind of cool. And that same event, that same night, because we were also drunk, Sean and Colin had their famous wrestling match before the finals. They got into a full-on wrestling match, and they were knocking over tables, and I was laughing my ass off. I filmed the whole thing, but I cannot find it to save my life. I've looked everywhere. I pulled up the external hard drive. I cannot find the video of them fighting before their actual event. And then Sean ended up winning. That was one of his years that he won.
So the funny thing is that you bring that up, and I'm not 100% sure of what the number count's going to be for people to show up in October. But if for some far chance that Sean and Colin both show up, we will set up a wrestling match, and we'll have the tradition to continue even at live events.
That's perfect. We used to have boxing gloves in first year. We'd box in the hallway, so maybe bring some boxing gloves too.
Well, we'll have to bring that, or some sledgehammers to basically be giving some people the hobbling effect. So, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. But
just pull out a Triple H and bring a sledgehammer. I love it.
Well, the funny thing is that you brought up about like bringing the $20 to that place. So there was a place in the Eastern Townships. It was called the Well Pub in near Sherbrooke, and there's another spot where Lennoxville is where I went for college. But then the Sherbrooke was only like a 20-minute drive, and they had a bar there that was run by the Hells Angels, and it was what's it called? Your cover cost was free because it was always football players running the door, and I was on the team. And then the beers were 75 cents. And then we also had this thing called the Dirty Number 8, which we called it because it was a poutine and a gyro and a pop for $5. So it was like everyone would get polluted all night, and $20 would last you at least a good evening. So like when you brought that up, I just like reminisce on old memories of me not waking up the next day for class. So I appreciate that fond memory of my college days that I can't remember half of the days that were involved.
Yeah, drinks used to be cheap, not anymore.
Well, now you can get a 2-4 for $75, and that's not including tax or your deposits.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So, fucking ridiculous. So, given that, what is your darkest secret that people don't know about Sean, Colin, Nate, or any of the other guys of the Waterloo crew that you think that would be important for people in our league to know, or the listeners that follow us on YouTube, which is everybody in the league?
I honestly don't know what's dark about us. Like, we've been friends for a long time. I guess it does get in the back of my mind, like, if we didn't have these tournaments, would we still be so connected, right? I've always thought that our hockey pool and our 95 tournament were the things that allowed us to stay friends for so long. Like, I read on, I don't know, it was Instagram or Twitter recently, and someone was saying, like, one thing you learn as you grow older is your friends would just kind of fade away. Like, you have really good friends, and then one day, like, you just don't see them or talk to them anymore. I went golfing yesterday with a buddy who, once a year, we go golfing. That's, like, the time I see him. But you used to, back in university, you hung out all the time. And so I always wonder, like, the dark thoughts in the back of my head might be, like, if we didn't do these tournaments, would I still be such good friends with these guys as I am now. And if like, is that the only thing that keeps us together? So that one makes me wonder sometimes. I'm always worried about maintaining social connections, and so that's one thing that weighs on my mind.
Well, it's still pretty dark, and nonetheless, than knowing that like we wouldn't be talking to each other even if we didn't have 95. So it's kind of funny how like a lot of the stories we'd be brought together, all the things that we've experienced together so far in the league, wouldn't have happened without the game. So when people say like war brings more countries together to be able to fight together, politics separates people, but also brings other ones together that you wouldn't have thought of. And it's the same thing with our league to some degree because there's a bunch of 40 to 45-year-olds, some 20-year-olds, some 30s that you would have never thought that you could put together in a group to play a game online and then start having conversations with each other that just like as if we all knew each other from college in a way.
Yeah, we have that common theme, right? The thread that unites us all.
Which is a digital game that was made in '94. So
and everything comes together. Like we didn't as a teacher, like with the pandemic, we have the technology now to teach online classes when we didn't have that before. And like all the kids in my school had a Chromebook, so it was easy just to like send that home with them. And like we wouldn't have been able to play across the internet on our 10 years ago. We took the technology evolving to where it is now that we can actually do this effectively. So that's pretty cool too.
Definitely. So other than that, Moses, give us a catchphrase, a story, anything you want to close us out on this episode of Dark Side of 95.
Well, I want to tell you how I met Sean and Colin. It's pretty cool. So we all went to the University of Waterloo. They were friends from Caledonia, and we lived on East B at Village 2 at UW. But anyway, on the very first day of school, I was wearing a shirt, a band I like, MXPX, and they were listening to MXPX music, and I walk across the hall to see them. I recognize the song. I walk over on the door. It says Sean and Colin. And I know we call me Moses Bogart. My real name is Sean Collins, which is a crazy coincidence. And they were like listening to the music from my shirt, and they're playing 95. And I'd always been a 96 guy, and they were playing 95, and that was my introduction to that game. And from then on in, like we met because of 95 and punk rock music, and we still keep 95 and punk rock music going now.
Well, that's still pretty crazy nonetheless. So, given with that, this is our episode of Dark Side of 95 with Moses Bogart, aka Sean Collins, also owner and manager of the Grand River Herons. And last thing to say, any closeout phrases?
Well, Grand River Herons.
Herons, sorry. My apologies.
Grand River Herons. I always like to have something to say at the end, and I've changed it up the last time I said, when someone shows you who they are, believe them. That's a pretty good quote.
It is pretty stellar. So that is our episode this week. Everyone stay groovy, and Bruley Cup finals are on tap hopefully by the end of this week, and if everything else transpires the way it is, draft day could kick off Monday. Stay easy, everyone. Stay loose and enjoy 95.